What if I told you that Heinrich Himmler created a network of secret maternity homes where SS officers were encouraged to father children with racially pure Aryan women? That up to 200,000 children were kidnapped from occupied territories, stolen from their parents in broad daylight, to be Germanized and raised as Nazis? That children who refused to forget their real families were beaten, and those who resisted too much were sent to concentration camps and murdered? And that thousands of these stolen children are still alive today, many never knowing their true identity? This is the story of Lebensborn, Heinrich Himmler's program to breed a master race, and its victims are still searching for the truth. December the 12th, 1935. Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer of the SS and one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany, signed the founding document for a new organization called Lebensborn e.V., Fount of Life. On the surface, it appeared to be a welfare program providing prenatal and postnatal care for the wives of SS officers. In reality, it was something far more sinister, a deliberate attempt to engineer a master race through selective breeding, kidnapping, and the systematic destruction of children's identities. Germany's birth rate had been declining for decades. By 1933, when Hitler came to power, it was 14.7 births per 1,000 people, less than half what it had been at the turn of the century. This alarmed Nazi leadership. How could they conquer Eastern Europe and establish an Aryan empire without enough German children to become soldiers and mothers? How could they achieve racial purity if racially valuable Aryan women were having abortions instead of babies? Himmler's solution was Lebensborn. He would create homes where unmarried Aryan women could give birth in secret, away from the shame of unwed pregnancy. He would encourage SS officers to father as many children as possible, even outside marriage. And most horrifyingly, he would kidnap blonde, blue-eyed children from conquered territories and forcibly Germanize them, erasing their identities and turning them into Nazi children. It was eugenics taken to its logical, monstrous conclusion, and it destroyed thousands of lives. The first Lebensborn home opened on August 15, 1936 in Steinhöring, Bavaria, a country estate converted into a luxurious maternity facility. Over the next 9 years, more than 30 Lebensborn homes would be established across Nazi Germany and occupied territories. 10 in Germany, 9 in Norway, 2 in Austria, and 1 each in Belgium, France, Luxembourg, Holland, and Denmark. These weren't ordinary hospitals. They were designed to be pleasant, comfortable spaces decorated with furnishings stolen from Jewish families sent to concentration camps. Women received the best medical care available, excellent food even as others in the area starved, sunlight exposure, and 2 baths daily. Everything that touched the babies was disinfected. The goal was perfection. Healthy Aryan children raised under ideal conditions. But admission was restricted. Women had to prove they were racially pure Aryans, going back at least 3 generations on both sides of their family. They underwent rigorous physical examinations measuring nose length, lip shape, hip width, and other characteristics to ensure they met Nazi racial standards. Approximately 60% of applicants were rejected as insufficiently Aryan. Most women accepted into the program were unmarried and pregnant, often by married SS officers. The Lebensborn homes offered them a solution to social shame. They could give birth in secret, far from judgmental family and neighbors. The program assumed guardianship of unmarried mothers' children and determined where they would be raised. Many babies were immediately adopted by SS families. The mothers had little say in the matter. Heinrich Himmler personally oversaw many aspects of Lebensborn. He chose the mothers. He attended to decor details. He even showed special interest in children born on his birthday, October 7th. This wasn't just a welfare program. It was Himmler's personal project to create a generation of perfect Nazi children who would lead the 1,000-year Reich. But breeding children in maternity homes wasn't enough. After Germany conquered Poland in September 1939, Nazi racial experts noticed something that both excited and disturbed them. There were thousands of Polish children with blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. Physical characteristics the Nazis associated with Aryan racial purity. To Himmler and the SS, this was unacceptable. How could non-German inferior Slavic peoples possess Aryan traits? The explanation they concocted was that these children must be descendants of Germanic settlers who had migrated east centuries ago. Therefore, they argued, these children were actually Germans who had been lost and must be recovered for the fatherland. In October 1943, Himmler made his intentions explicit. Obviously, in such a mixture of peoples, there will always be some racially good types. Therefore, I think it is our duty to take their children with us, to remove them from their environment, if necessary, by robbing or stealing them. And that's exactly what the SS did. Beginning in 1939, Nazi forces launched systematic kidnapping campaigns across occupied territories: Poland, Yugoslavia, Ukraine, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Estonia, Latvia, and Norway. The scale was staggering. Estimates suggest up to 200,000 children were stolen, with perhaps 100,000 from Poland alone. The process was methodical and brutal. SS units would arrive at orphanages, schools, and villages. They would round up all the children and transport them to medical centers. There, SS doctors would line them up, photograph them, and examine 62 different physical characteristics: eye color, hair color, skull measurements, nose shape, bone structure. Based on these examinations, children were categorized into groups. Category 1, desired for immediate Germanization. Category 2, acceptable for Germanization. Category 3, questionable, sent to labor camps. Category 4, unwanted, sent to concentration camps and exterminated. The Nazis would seize children in full view of their parents. Mothers screamed. Fathers tried to fight. It made no difference. The SS had guns and the authority of the Reich. Families were torn apart, often never to see each other again. Children classified as categories 1 and 2, those deemed racially valuable, were sent to Lebensborn centers for Germanization. If they were between ages 2 and 6, they were placed with German foster families. Older children went to special re-education camps and boarding schools in Bavaria. The Germanization process was psychological warfare against children. Everything was done to make them forget their birth parents and accept their new German identity. Children were given new German names. Speaking their native language was forbidden and punished. SS nurses told them their real parents had abandoned them. Nazi propaganda films were shown constantly. They were forced to sing German songs and attend ideological lectures. Any mention of their previous life resulted in beatings. For young children, the process often worked. A 2-year-old could be made to forget Polish, Serbian, or Ukrainian. They would grow up believing they were German, never knowing they had been stolen. But older children remembered. They resisted. They refused to speak German. They cried for their mothers. And those who resisted too much were beaten, starved, or transferred to concentration camps, most often to Kalisz in Poland, where they were murdered. One of the most horrific examples of the kidnapping program occurred after the assassination of SS Governor Reinhard Heydrich in Prague in June 1942. In retaliation, the SS decided to destroy the Czech village of Lidice. On June 10, 1942, German forces surrounded the village, executed all 173 men and older boys, and deported the women to Ravensbrück concentration camp. But what happened to the children of Lidice reveals the true horror of Lebensborn. SS racial assessors examined all 105 children from the village. 91 were judged racially inadequate and sent to be gassed at Chelmno extermination camp. But 14 children, those with blonde hair and blue eyes, were selected for Germanization and sent to Lebensborn facilities. They were given German names, told their parents were dead, and raised as Nazi children. After the war, only 8 of those 14 Germanized Lidice children could be identified and returned to surviving relatives. 6 were never found. They may have lived their entire lives believing they were German, never knowing the truth about their village, their real names, or their murdered families. One of the most documented Lebensborn cases is that of Erika Matko, who was born in Yugoslavia in 1941. In the summer of 1942, Nazi racial assessors examined children across occupied Yugoslavia as part of anti-partisan operations. 9-month-old Erica was selected as fit to be a child of Hitler, blonde, blue-eyed, and perfect by Nazi racial standards. She was taken from her mother and transported to Germany. After being held in a Lebensborn facility for nearly 2 years, she was adopted by a German couple named von Oehlhoffen and renamed Ingrid. The SS even gave the Matko family a replacement baby, another girl they were told to also name Erica. Where this replacement child came from remains a mystery. Ingrid von Oehlhoffen lived her entire childhood believing she was German. Only decades later did she begin investigating her origins and discover the truth. She had been kidnapped as an infant and Germanized. Her real name was Erika Matko. She was Yugoslav, not German. Everything she had been told about her identity was a lie. Her story is documented in the book Hitler's Forgotten Children, and it represents the experiences of thousands of Lebensborn children who only learned the truth about their stolen identities as adults, if they ever learned it at all. The full scale of the Lebensborn kidnapping program may never be known. Nazi records were deliberately destroyed near the war's end, but estimates based on surviving documents and post-war investigations suggest 250,000 plus children examined for racial characteristics. 200,000 children kidnapped from occupied territories. 100,000 from Poland alone. Only 25,000 children reunited. With families after the war, that means approximately 175,000 stolen children were never found. Some died in concentration camps. Others were adopted and lived as Germans, never knowing their true origins. And some are still alive today, now in their 80s, many never having learned they were stolen. After the war, a team led by Dr. Roman Hrabar worked with the United Nations attempting to reconnect Lebensborn children with their biological families. It was nearly impossible. Records had been destroyed. Many parents were dead. Children had been given new names. And tragically, some children who were found refused to return to their birth families. They had been so thoroughly Germanized that they believed they were German, and their real parents were strangers. The end of the war didn't bring relief to Lebensborn children. It brought a new nightmare. In Norway, children born to Norwegian mothers and German soldier fathers were treated horrifically. They were bullied, abused, raped, and persecuted by their own government. Many were placed in mental institutions simply for being German children. The Norwegian government even attempted to deport them to Germany, Brazil, and Australia, though these efforts failed. Across Europe, Lebensborn mothers faced revenge from their communities. Their heads were shaved, they were beaten. They were branded as Nazi collaborators and run out of towns. Many had volunteered for the program believing Nazi propaganda, but many others had been coerced or raped by SS officers. Regardless, they were all punished. The children themselves carried lifelong shame and trauma. Those who discovered they were stolen faced impossible questions. Who am I really? What was my birth name? Are my real parents still alive? Do I have siblings? Many spent decades searching for answers they never found. So, what was Lebensborn? Was it a breeding program, a kidnapping operation, or both? The answer is, it was both, and worse. Lebensborn began as Himmler's attempt to increase the Aryan birth rate through maternity homes and encouraging SS officers to father children. But it evolved into something far more monstrous. A systematic campaign to steal children from conquered peoples, erase their identities, and turn them into Nazis. Approximately 8,000 to 12,000 children were born in Lebensborn maternity homes in Germany and occupied territories. But up to 200,000 more were kidnapped and subjected to Germanization. These weren't abstract statistics. They were real children torn from their mother's arms, beaten until they forgot their native languages, and raised to believe lies about who they were. The program's legacy continues today. Organizations like the Aryan Archives preserve Lebensborn records and help survivors search for their true identities. Author Dorothy Schmitz-Koester has spent decades researching and documenting Lebensborn children's stories. And across Europe, elderly men and women are still discovering that the parents who raised them weren't their real parents, that they were stolen as children, and everything they believed about themselves was a Nazi lie. Lebensborn represents one of the most disturbing aspects of Nazi racial ideology. The belief that children were property to be bred, stolen, and manipulated in service of creating a master race. It shows how eugenics, the pseudoscience of racial improvement, led directly to the abuse and murder of innocents. This story connects to everything we've explored in our Nazi Mysteries series. It began with the Thule Society's racist mythology about Aryan superiority. It was institutionalized through Himmler's Ahnenerbe research organization, seeking to prove those myths. It manifested in programs like Lebensborn that treated human beings as breeding stock and children as resources to be harvested. Today, the term Lebensborn has become synonymous with Nazi crimes against children. It's a reminder that the Third Reich's evil wasn't just about mass murder in concentration camps. It was also about destroying families, erasing identities, and using children as tools to build a racial empire. The children of Lebensborn are now in their 80s. Many have died without ever knowing the truth about their origins. But those who remain continue to search, to ask questions, and to demand that this chapter of history never be forgotten.